Hey everyone, you're back with another dyslexia interview. We have some fantastic guests, not one, but two incredible people who are doing phenomenal work within their field. So today, sit back, relax, and join in with our conversation. I would like to bring Kim. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you have?
Absolutely. Good. Yeah. Hello, everyone. So my name is Kim Antoniou. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Auris, and we've built a speech recognition engine that basically has been developed specifically to support reading, motivated by bringing up children with dyslexia. Reading was always a challenge in our house. We came up with this idea of creating something that could be really engaging for children and adults that kind of, especially the tech savvy ones that love the idea of reading on tablets. So yeah,
wonderful. Thank you so much. And Vicki, hello. Thank you so much again for giving us your time. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Hello, I'm Vicki Edgar. I am actually the customer engagement manager for Fonetti, and that means that I work with all of the schools over the UK and hold their hand while using our reading platform and our schools portal.
Fantastic. And we'll get into kind of because we spoke obviously before prior to this. Vicki, we mentioned about kind of that you're dyslexic as well. So we'll get into that if that's okay, and you can kind of share your story and your thoughts on that. Kim, if I could come to you and just ask kind of what was the kind of the thought process behind? I mean, your companies, you're doing incredible things, to helping people. What was the kind of thought process behind that?
Well, apart from Vicki being our customer engagement manager, she's also actually my daughter, and part of the motivation for why we built the platform in the first place. And as Vicki said, that Vicki's dyslexic and so is her brother, and so reading was always a challenge in our house as they grew up, and especially if there was ever a scenario where they had to read out loud, then they were quite terrified of this whole scenario. And that coupled with an incident I had with my little grandson when he was only 2, when actually he was getting a bit fractious in the car, and I gave him the iPhone, and he literally put his favourite YouTube on, or Chuckington, and he swiped to the next page. And I thought there's this a real connection between technology and reading, and was kind of motivated to build something that we hoped would be what we dubbed edutainment, and the plan was always to build an app that children would be able to access on their tablets for reading. And we always wanted something where there would be a clear indication that the child would realise that the app understood the words, understood and could hear what they were saying.
Yes.
And that's where sort of Fonetti was basically created from.
And that's wonderful, because we tend to have this kind of divide, I guess, when we think about kind of tech, and we think, screen time, and we think, it's bad to be always using tech and it consumes and stuff. And then, you should be reading, or the books and the other things. But that amalgamation between the two and seeing that is quite visionary, to kind of combine that, because we do, in everyday life, we use tech in that aspect.
I think of that as almost like an evolution, because there are certain children that are going to be happy to pick up a book. Those children will always be, and they will always, they won't struggle with reading, whether they've got dyslexia or they're not. They've got that kind of, innate sort of love of books and readings. But then there's an awful lot of children, and actually it's more boys than girls, it seems, that actually are, far more inclined to pick up a tablet and do some tech, but it's not kind of reading. For example, we recently, last year, we sponsored a children's festival up in Lancashire. Yeah. And, we were asking all the children, it was great, it was like this whole great big reading festival, and we were asking the children, do you like reading? And the majority of them would say, no, not so much. Do you like tablets? Oh, yes. Well, what about if you could read on a tablet? Now, my experience of, our children, which always found, picking up a book was always quite a challenge for them. And I mean, Vicki will talk about that more, I'm sure, a bit later on. But, you know, when you've got this new kind of tech savvy generation, that, you know, you've got to engage them in some way. Of course, the pandemic and, you know, the whole disruptions to schooling and everything has made that considerably worse. But, you know, you've got to find a way of engaging them. And does it matter how a child learns to read as long as they learn to read?
Absolutely. And I think there is that kind of that structure. You take the educational system and we have this kind of structure in place, and you have to kind of learn, you know, in a certain way. And I know, you know, being dyslexic myself, there was a lot of barriers in the educational system for me. It just didn't fit. But Vicki, if I can come on to you, if that's okay, what was it kind of like with regards to, say, reading or your dyslexia within school? What was that kind of like for you, if you don't mind sharing?
Terrifying.
You're being honest. Yeah.
Basically, I was quite well liked in school, and most probably one of the cool kids, if I could go as far as saying that. But actually, when it came to lessons, and you knew that you were in an English lesson and your peers are kind of, it's going around the classroom, and you know that any time now your teacher is going to say, right, Vicki, stand up and read this paragraph for me. I would literally my palms would be sweaty. I'd be shaking.
I'm just thinking about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it heightens your anxiety, like as you say, even now, this later on. But yeah, it would just be absolutely petrifying, because it'd be like, well, I'm in front of all my mates here and I don't want to show myself up. And as you say, you're dyslexic yourself. So I don't know if you ever find it, but actually the words kind of move on the page. And it's terrifying, and it really does absolutely knock your confidence.
Because we look at that kind of age range, you know, where there's a lot of peer pressure in that, you know, you're in that kind of environment, and, you know, the smallest thing that you do that stands out in the sense that could be deemed as, you know, silly, or, you know, not, you know, to not look, you know, to be made fun of in that sense. All this kind of pressure is building on, and the inability to be able to read that piece of text or do that is completely out of your control. I mean, and I guess growing up, you don't really understand how, you know, why you can't be like everyone else and do those things, and so you are quite frustrated, you know, within that. So did you have any kind of coping mechanisms? I mean, people ask me all the time, did you have any coping mechanisms in school in this? And I can't think of any, but did you have any kind of coping mechanism apart from just, you know, hoping and praying that the teacher didn't pick on you to come out and read?
No, I actually, it was quite a few years ago, I must admit.
That's my answer.
Yeah, no, I honestly don't know. I suppose, well, with a coping mechanism per se, I suppose I actually excelled in drama at school. So I absolutely, I've got really, really good grades in GCSE for drama. And that was because I was able to learn my lines, and it wasn't a case of having to kind of stand up and read it as I was going along. I knew what I was saying, so my confidence came out. And so I think drama for me was most probably what absolutely helped my confidence.
Which is something that you need, because if you take someone within the school age, say secondary school, for people watching this in America, it's high school, we're, you know, the confidence every day, walking into an English lesson, a maths lesson, you know, geography, all these different lessons, from the minute of the anxiety kind of building up, going into those lessons, then sitting down and thinking, am I going to be able to read what they write on the board? Am I going to be able to read the text? Do I have to stand up? All this naturally kind of starts knocking your confidence. So it's amazing that you were able to kind of excel and kind of build upon your confidence within drama. And was that kind of just a lot of improvised, or did you have to try and learn lines with this? How did you cope around that?
I think it was a bit of both. I done kind of stage performances where it was learning a verse, and I think Anne Frank was one of them that come to mind. But then I also was in like the school productions and played Wendy from Peter Pan and Anna from King and I. And with those kind of scenarios. Obviously, you do learn your lines previously to being on stage. So absolutely, there was both of those really.
I mean, that's fantastic. Kim, do you feel that when you're kind of working, within your company and you're seeing people using your product, do you think it's when we look at this, is people's interest? So if you can gauge their interest into something, or then you get more of a kind of a buy-in for that.
100%. It's all about engagement, and different children are engaged by different things. And I think that one of the things that really captures people and engages young children when they're using Fonetti, which is our reading app, is the fact that you've got this visual and you've got this audible thing going on at the same time. So in a nutshell, as they read the words out loud, the words change colour when they get them right, and then they simply grey out if they miss a word or get them wrong. They can quickly double tap for something they're not quite sure of. The app will then read it to them, and then they can read it. And at the end of the book, they'll get a well done, and they'll get stars depending on how accurate they were. Now, the way that it seems to engage children, and actually from a pedagogy perspective, the actual learning of the reading is enhanced because you've got the visual and the audible. You've got the visual because it changes colour as they're going along, and you've got the audible, listening to their own voice as they read aloud. Actually just helps to kind of, centre that part of the brain that kind of, that they then a bit like when children are watching the TV and there are subtitles on the TV. They're subliminally learning their reading without realising it. I think with children, especially those where they have reading challenges like dyslexia, I think that extra support makes a world of difference.
Absolutely. And it's almost like you've preempted, you've designed those tools around that engagement. And if there is kind of a barrier in not, being able to read that word or understanding, it's highlighted, but in quite a nice way, very nice way, in the sense of, this is what we can do to kind of change. And that when we're kind of reading out loud in a classroom environment, I guess, it's just the sound of your voice that people are just tuning into, and then it's a case of, I don't know, within school it can be quite harsh, I guess. I've witnessed this as well, where if you get the word wrong, there's kind of like a little bit of kind of laughter, or you just feel that kind of intensity, but there's no understanding of, if you have got that word wrong, how you correct it. And obviously with what you've designed, it can really help that.
It's all about positive reinforcement. It's all about what you can do and not what you can't do. So if you miss a word or get it wrong, it simply greys out. It's kind of just very subtle, whereby, and the well dones for whatever your achievements are really big. And I think that's really important. But, from a teacher's intervention perspective, so the teachers, when using Fonetti in schools, the teachers are able to log into the platform. They're able to see, who's been reading, what their level of accuracy was, who hasn't been reading, and where they need to focus their attentions. Yeah. And, that kind of information is really, really useful because, especially when you've got children that have got special needs like dyslexia, the reality is they're not always those people that will put their hands up and say, I'm struggling. So actually, the fact is the teacher will see they're struggling. So you could then, look at the data in the back-end system, the teacher data, and say, Darren, from the data, I can see that you might need a little bit of help with here. Let me help. And then you can have specific interventions because, quite honestly, the way that you learn to read is going to be completely different from the way Vicki or I learn to read. Yeah. And but at the end of the day, it's all about what is right for an individual, and how can you support that without making them feel like they are different.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And Vicki, as Kim alluded to, that confidence of saying, "Look, I'm struggling here." Were you able to kind of, within kind of school days, were you able to kind of highlight and ask for that kind of additional help, or was it a case of you just felt real kind of closed off? I remember I was.
Yeah, I don't think you do, because you don't want to make yourself stand out, do you? My son, he's also dyslexic and 11, and I know that he absolutely hates it when a teacher kind of like makes a fuss of him, if you like, to try and help him, because he doesn't want to be singled out. He doesn't want to be that person that is struggling and known to be struggling. And I think that's where with Fonetti, it absolutely ticks all the boxes. We know that reading aloud is an amazing way of learning to read. But with Fonetti, you can kind of sit in a corner, like some of our schools that use us have got like Fonetti corners and like little bean bags. And the child can sit in the Fonetti corner and read to their app, and Fonetti becomes their friend.
Definitely.
So actually, there isn't that fear to reading to Fonetti, and it is boosting their confidence at the same time and gets them ready to then, when they get into the situation where they've got to stand up in front of the class and read that paragraph, they know that they can do it because they've already done it with their friend.
Absolutely. On an iPad. And you touched on a subject there where I think is so powerful, is the environment that you can create. And we're talking, I mean, I'm, 45, so I'm talking kind of school in the 80s and early 90s. And we are, I would reflect on how we would go around the class and we'd ask people to read aloud. And creating that environment now where, like you said, Fonetti kind of corners and it's done in kind of a discreet but kind of supportive way. I think, Kim, do you think that environments are really, really important in classrooms?
They really are important. But equally, it is about not being singled out. So, for example, when children are allocated the books in their school book bag on their app with Fonetti, there is absolutely no indication of what level they are, what age group they are. And that's especially important now. It was bad enough before, but since the pandemic, where reading on the whole, I mean, there are some children that have excelled with their reading through lockdown, but there were others and more that have actually really, their reading has actually, has got worse. And so for them to be able to be in this unsingled out environment, you might have books in there in level 1 or level 4, but the child doesn't know that. They're just books.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of reading environment for them is, that's pretty critical as well. And at the end of the day, it's not even just dyslexia. It's kind of, you've got such a demographic now of young children that are so into their tech. And again, sadly, the pandemic has had a big effect on that. When actually you say to them, look, pick up a book, you've got to practice your reading. If you say to them, alternatively, pick up an app and have a go and look at something that's going to show you, is going to give you visual encouragement to do it, then what are they likely to do?
Absolutely. And I guess we do live in a busy, fast-paced world, and tech. There's always kind of an app or there's something kind of entertaining someone, with something. And I guess it is. It's just reading is so vital in everyday life. And just not just reading books, but it could be signs, it could be restaurants, it could menus, and all these kind of different things that I know personally. Whenever I go into with my dyslexia, it fluctuates and gets worse sometimes. Whether I've got a heavy workload, or I'm you're kind of a little bit stressed or something. Sometimes it's worse than other times. So I know that whenever I go into a restaurant sometimes and I'm looking at the menu, certain fonts I find difficult to read. So even now at kind of 45, I guess, and you go into a restaurant, you still have that kind of that nervousness of when the waiter's coming over and he or she is saying, what would you like? And you're looking at this menu and it's just like kind of ants just, all roaming around the page. And it's, it can be quite, debilitating in that sense. But the whole ethos of reading, I guess is we've got a Drop Everything and Read campaign coming in March. And what we're trying to do is just try and get people to fall in love with reading again, and having that element of that kind of escapism, but understanding that they can kind of take something, read it and enjoy.
And it's actually never too late. And if I can just take my founder, CEO hat off for a second and put my mum hat on for a second and share a story which is absolutely spot on. And that is, Vicki, as we've said, all her life has struggled with reading and never found reading a pleasure in any way, shape or form. I think that's fair to say, Vicki. But since she's been, in the role that she is within the business, a part of what she does is lots and lots of demos to schools and to parents and various different people, and to works with the children with the focus groups and everything. And in that time, she's been doing lots of reading out loud on Fonetti. And for the first time in the last few months, Vicki is now picking up a book to read for pleasure. Now at 39, it's all right, let's not talk about age because we don't want to talk about mine. But, but at 39, for me, it's just like my that's incredible. My whole life I've been striving to help my kids with their reading, and then suddenly, an intervention as simple as an app where you read aloud, it's a compelling thing.
Absolutely.
Because dyslexia isn't something that ever goes away. It's not like you grow out of being dyslexic. Some people say, when I was a child, I was dyslexic. No, you are still dyslexic.
I hear that so many times.
And it also has so many other different forms as well, doesn't it?
It does.
And, morphs into sometimes things like dysgraphia and other things. And, it all gets mingled and muddled up. When Vicki was at school, and you probably had the same, Darren, they didn't really even recognise dyslexia as such. And actually, the dyslexic children were those ones which were a little bit, sometimes, they're not concentrating. Why don't they just concentrate? Well, actually, they can't concentrate in the same way.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm sorry, I get on my soapbox a little bit when I talk about this, but people have got to recognise it, and people have got to be a little bit more, not just understanding, but be more adaptable, more inclusive.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And we know within dyslexia, then it does, like you said, there are, it goes into, dyslexia, it could be ADHD, it could be dyscalculia, and so on and so on and so on. So there are, there's so many different elements, and it can be really difficult to try and understand how that, if you take a classroom environment, some classrooms, I think they're kind of up to say 25 students, so to speak, and you go in and you think statistically 1 in 5 people have dyslexia, then you could have quite a lot of children in there that are dyslexic, and then it could be very difficult if you're not trained in as a dyslexic assessor in these. So it can be quite an awkward environment on both cases. Vicki, what would you like to see going forward with obviously your company is doing phenomenal things, kind of helping so many people, helping falling back in love and reading, helping. I know you would have loved to have something. I would have loved to have had something if I was at school to do this. What do you see going forward? Is it a case of like just helping more and more people to fall back in love and reading?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just so passionate about the product and Fonetti, that I just want to get it in front of as many children, that everyone that needs it. Absolutely everyone that needs it, because it really does work. And I'm not just saying that because I work for the company or my mum's the CEO. I genuinely am so passionate about it. And as Kim said, it really has helped me. It really, really has. And so I'm just absolutely wanting to scream it from if you're on my social, then you'll know that I'm screaming it from the rooftops, because I absolutely I know what it can do for children. And I've seen what it's done for my son, who is absolutely tech savvy, to the point that for Christmas he wanted a PC, but he didn't just want a PC. He gave me a list of all the parts. 11 years old, literally all the parts, and said to me, Mum, this is what I need. I want to build my own PC. So he's really, really creative in that respect as well. And I think a lot of dyslexics are.
Yeah.
So with that, I can see exactly how it's helped him, and it's win-win for us, because he is got an app, he's got kind of screen time, but he's also doing something educational. And with Fonetti, obviously, I work with the schools rather than the home users personally. But what teachers love about the app, because it is on app device, the teachers can actually set it for homework as well. So as long as the children have got access to an iPad, an Android tablet at home, then the children can read, and they can then do that with their parents if they want. They can do it alone. It also really, really works if there's a case of where English is a second language.
Okay.
Because we know that obviously there's a lot of parents that aren't as literate in English as their children, so they can't actually get involved in their education and their learning. Whereas with Fonetti, they can sit down with them, and all they need to know is that the words changing green means their child's getting it right. So they can actually then be part of it, and inadvertently, it's going to help them with their English as well.
Absolutely.
So that has been absolutely amazing and really.
And you're living proof as well that it's helped you with you know, with you using it as well, and with regards to your reading. It's I think it's absolutely incredible what you're doing, the ethos behind your company, that, you know, how it's kind of building and how it's helping so many, you know, thousands of people. So Kim, how can people get in touch with yourselves and your company?
Well, Fonetti.com, which is FONETTI.com. You've got lots of information there. You've got some little demos of how it works. There's ways of contacting us. But, you know, we want to be able to spread the word. For example, we were talking about your dear, drop everything and read project. It's just like wherever we can, if there's a child that actually is really struggling, we'll happily gift a subscription to Fonetti. So, just reach out to us, just email us through our site, or email Vicki at Fonetti.com. That's Vicki, or Victoria, actually, beg your pardon, at Fonetti.com. And we'll do that, because at the end of the day, our philosophy, our motto, if you like, is help a child to read, to change a life forever.
Wonderful.
And that's it. So it's, how do you get it into the hands of as many children as possible? And the only way you do that is to spread the word, give it out to a lot. When we first went into lockdown, the first thing we did is we made the app free for everybody for that first year. And so it's all about spreading the word, and it's all about doing some different, obviously we're a commercial company, we're working with schools and everything. And actually you've got to be commercial to be able to do the good stuff that you want to do and do all the giving away. We, working with schools, if you're a school, then again, just go onto the website and contact us, and we'll be happy to set up a free trial or whatever you want. It's all about getting it into as many hands as possible and doing as much as you can. And, at the end of the day, I think that, we've built this incredibly clever speech technology that has been specifically built for reading, and it's been done. Its intent is to, support literacy and English language learning. And, it's about just spreading the word, really. So, and being on conversations like this is absolutely brilliant. It helps us to do that. But equally, we want to do whatever we can for associations like yours.
Absolutely. We will put all the links and all the details in all the comments and things to make sure that people can get hold of yourselves and your company. Like I said, you're doing absolutely phenomenal stuff. Kim and Vicki, I really do appreciate. I know how incredibly busy your schedules are, so having you take some time out to have a chat with us, it's been absolutely fantastic. We will definitely be in touch very soon, and we look forward to continuing our conversation with you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And congratulations with all the work that you do with Succeed with Dyslexia. It is phenomenal. And, so, congratulations all round.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. We hope you enjoyed that interview just as much as we did putting it together. Now, we have another fantastic interview for you. Please do check out this video to the right of us, where we got our chance to speak to Andy Carroll, who is the founder of Dyslexia Bali. Now, they are doing phenomenal work in Bali to help raise not just awareness of dyslexia in their country, but to make significant changes. Please click on the link, check out the video, and as always, let us know in the comments what you think. Take care, guys. We'll speak to you soon.